Carolyn Dube here, and no, this isn't my usual intro. My computer's down, which has led to all sorts of problems, but even though I've got technical challenges, I'm still gonna get a new video out for you. Well, today I'm playing in a new art journal. It's one of the Strathmore mixed media journals, and it's a soft skin, moleskin type journal, and I haven't used those before, so I'm gonna give this one a shot. I'm going to go right for the first page on this one, and I'm going to play with a Frida stamp that I got from Invoke Arts. I think this one is called Frida's Glance, and that's just some good old black ink. And she's kind of, well, let's just say that page isn't going to be white when I'm done, and I want to keep her unpainted. So what I'm going to do is just make a quick mask out of that index card. I will only do this with stamps that I can cut around easily because I'm just not willing to fussy cut over something like a mask. Well, the stencil I'm bringing in here is by Andrea Domingue called A Rose by Any Other Name, and that big old soft squishy wonderful sponge I'm using, that's one of the Pan Pastel sponges, and I have to say I really like how they work with stencils and paint. Mary Beth Shaw kind of got me turned onto those when I saw her demoing with them at Stamp Away, so I'm going to give them a little bit of a play. Well, and here's the thing, is I make a big old oops here in just a moment. You're going to see it. The green paint was too runny and I had too much of it, so it leaked under. So what I'm going to do is just call that an oops, an outstanding opportunity that presented suddenly. So I'm just going to paint in those green leaves that way. And I still wanted a little bit more to them, and so I had this plan to try something, and I gotta tell you, I think I made the world's ugliest color right there, so I'm not going with that idea. Now, if you've seen many of my videos, you know that I have a hard time with a lot of white space, and this was way too much white space for me. So I'm just taking a paintbrush and adding some color around it. This is where the mask will turn in very handy. And that way I can get color right up against the stamp, but not actually put it on top of the stamp. And still didn't quite look. Can you tell I'm running out of paint in my little jars? So if the paint won't squirt out, I'll just open up the lid and take it from there. So I got a slightly different color, and I'm just trying to get a little variety on there. I'm putting it on, and it's just, you know, the paint just doesn't seem to want to come out. But that's okay. I'm still going to work it around until I get this whole sucker covered in the blue paint like what I wanted. So as I add all this color around on the page, it kind of struck me that, you know, here's Frida, who I think of as such a colorful, creative individual, and she's pretty much just black and white there. So she's going to need a little bit of color on her. So what I'm going to do is I am going to take some of that pink from the flower, and I am going to just sort of punch up her shirt and add a little more color to that one. And as I'm doing this, I realize I want to add some lines around things. Definitely on those leaves, I want to add a little bit more to it. So I'm going to bring out my fine line applicators, and these are basically bottles with really skinny tips, and I filled them with high flow paint. These things are great because they don't clog, because there's a long metal thing that goes into the tip so that the tips don't clog, because you know me, I'm not going to clean anything out. So I'm just sort of highlighting, adding some more layers around of paint to where I've stenciled. Alright, so I wanted to add Frida onto this, obviously, because that's for her. And this is one of those stamps, you know, where you can change each letter and spell whatever you want. And I always like to check it to make sure that I've spelled it correctly. And I always end up with that overstamping when I have a shorter word. So I'm going to wipe that ink off, and I'm going to show you one of the ways to avoid that. And that is just to ink it up where the letters are. So I kind of watch where I'm inking it up, and that should reduce my overstamping. Now that said, I've shown you this, I've thought about this, and then I kind of get wrapped up in it. As I go farther down the page with this, I start getting some of that overstamping on it because I just sort of get lost in it and get excited. I'm going to put the mask back over her so that I can stamp around her, and it'll look like the letters are behind her. So I've got that part done, and as much as I talk about that overstamping, I kind of like how that looks, that you can see little hints of it down on the bottom part. So I'm actually going to go add little touches of it somewhere else. So how goofy that the thing that I was avoiding, I actually started to like. Well, I like most of the things about this, but Frida looks like she's just stamped there, and I want to give her a little more something. So I'm going to pull out my Stabilo pencils. I'm going to use a white Stabilo pencil, and I'm going to journal my thoughts all along her shirt. And that's great, but it's her hair. Her hair just looks, you know, and it's black hair, and so I've decided what I'm going to do is use the black Stabilo pencil, and I'm going to sort of sketch along, go over where the stamp lines are. And so what's going to go from looking like a stamp is going to look a little bit more like a sketching or drawing. I'm basically cheating and sort of tracing right over it. There is absolutely no technical skill whatsoever involved here in tracing over this, because the stamp is guiding where I'm going to go. But all of a sudden, it just has a much sketchier, nicer look to it. Well, thanks for joining me for a little art journal fun today. If you've enjoyed watching this video, I'd love it if you subscribe to my YouTube channel. And of course, if you have friends that you think would enjoy this, I'd love it if you'd share it with them too. Thanks for being a part of this colorful journey. And now normally you'd see the finger painting where it listed my blog address of acolorfuljourney.com. But again, since I'm having those computer problems and I'm on a loaner computer, I don't have that, which really is more information than you probably really wanted to know about my computer challenges at the moment. But the bottom line is you can find me over at my website at acolorfuljourney.com, where I have a post to go with this video and all the links that you might need.